Well, welcome friends and subscribers to Starry's homestead. We got a beautiful view this morning. There's the house, and look at all the snow. It is melting. We just go from one extreme to the other. We got tons of snow, but it is wet today. Are you eating the snow? What are you doing? Oh, they're both now. Look at that. Two peas in a pod. They act like they haven't been fed. The deer were just out here, and we have the alfalfa and little homestead dogs. Look at, oh, he thinks he's missing something. What are you guys doing, huh? Stretch her out. They were out snowshoeing this morning, and now we are just going to do a short video. Hi friends, here in the homestead, because I get a lot of great comments, a lot of good feedback from all of you friends at home. And one of the things that I really think may need to be addressed is for those of you who are just beginning this journey and thinking about going off-grid or starting a homestead like we did here in the mountains of Idaho. Things that is overlooked with new homesteaders and new off-gridders is the thinking aspect of going off the grid and starting a homestead. And what I mean by that is many people are looking now at escaping the urban jungle. They want a more stress-free life. They want to get out of their 9-to-5 job. They want to get out from underneath debt. You know, they're looking to break free from that indoctrinated American way of life and go back to the basics. And that, you know, that's great. That is so great that people are seeing that, you know, there is something to be said for this type of lifestyle. But the difficult part is breaking free from that indoctrination, breaking free from the way that they have been raised, the way they have been living, and really disconnecting from the on-grid mentality that so many people bring with them when they go off the grid and start a new homestead. Myself and Mr. Hilder, we have been this way since birth. We didn't have to break free from a stressed out job. We weren't under debt. We weren't enslaved by our lifestyle. We weren't escaping anything. In fact, where we lived in Wisconsin, we were very self-sufficient and lived a very unconventional life. I've said this before. You know, we hauled water. We dug our own well. I could tell you many stories. This was how me and Mr. Hilder, since we were tiny. So we didn't have to break out of any type of lifestyle that was holding us back and stressing us out. But what we had to break away from was the region that we were living at. You know, Wisconsin is not an off-grid friendly community. It's just not. There's way too many people. There's not enough public land. The resources are kind of drying up in that state, and there's just a lot of rules and regulations. So that's why we left Wisconsin and we decided to go to a whole nother region, obviously the mountains, where we could live, we felt, a freer life, a more sustainable life, and a happier life. And that is, of course, what so many of you new homesteaders are looking at doing, the same thing. The big difference is, again, you're not coming from a background like myself and Mr. Hilder. And it's going to make it harder. And why is it going to make it harder? It's kind of like going on a camping trip when you've never camped before. You remember the first time that you camped? You brought everything but the kitchen sink, right? You either overpacked or you underpacked. And it took a couple times of going out and camping to really get the feel of what you needed and what you didn't need. Well, it's the same thing when you're starting a new homestead. If you are coming from a background that you didn't live on a farm, you weren't raised in the country, you didn't have a mother that canned and a father that hunted, and you didn't burn wood. You're coming from, just a conventional American background where you worked and went to college, and you have some debt, and you haven't been exposed to a self-sustainable type of lifestyle. Yes, it makes it a little bit harder, because again, what happens is you will bring with you your baggage from how you have been living. And it is baggage. We all have baggage. Their habits, their ways of thinking. It's just ingrained in us. There's just no way to get around it. So, what do? You pick up a book and read about homesteading, and then suddenly you're going to become a homesteader. We all know that that doesn't happen. You can't just read a book and become a homesteader, just like you can't just read a camping book and become a camper, right? You also have to remember the transition. And this is the great transition when you are going from on-grid life to a more self-sustainable lifestyle. It is leaving baggage behind. It's leaving, if you think about this, conveniences. And I don't think we really sit down and realize when we do live on the grid and we live in the city, how convenient everything is. Everything's convenient. The school's right down the road. The restaurant's right down the road. Fast food is right down the road. A grocery store's right down the road. Gas station's right down the road. Hardware store's right down the road. We don't have to worry about wood. We don't have to worry about water. We don't have to worry about growing vegetables and raising chickens and hunting and foraging. No. And even though you crave for this new lifestyle and you can set into motion all of the things to create that lifestyle, because you can watch my videos, I show you how to do it. The one thing that is going to be one of the hardest things to get is that attitude and that mode of thinking. It just doesn't happen overnight. People who have ventured off-grid, unfortunately, just throw in the towel. I have seen it before. You even watch YouTube channels that come and go, and people end up just, they can't take it. They can't take it. I've read articles from people who have attempted to go off-grid, and they're just tortured. And it's unfortunate because the lifestyle offers so much. You see what it offers. I mean, we are so blessed to have that homestead there. So what's the answer, Starry? Well, the answer is, in order to compensate for what you lack in experience and skill and knowledge, if you haven't been raised this way, you're going to have to make up for in smart planning. And I cannot capitalize on smart planning enough. I mean, it sounds like such a simple solution. But friends, it will go a long, long way to save you a lot of heartache. What it does is takes the equation of your lack of experience, your lack of knowledge in living off the grid and being self-sustainable, and puts it on paper so that you can prioritize without being tempted to fall back on your bad habits, to fall back on your old mode of thinking and your old instincts. Because, when the generator runs out of gas, your old instinct would be, I'm just going to run to the gas station and, get some gas. You don't do that when you're living off the grid, because for the most part, you're probably 25, 30, 40 miles from the gas station, right? It's not convenient anymore. Falling back on those old habits ain't going to cut it anymore. It's the same thing if you go off grid and it's your first year and winter is approaching and you forgot to write down, we need wood. And now it's winter and you don't have any wood. And, you know, you live off grid, how are you going to be heating the house? You're going to be heating it with wood, right? So, you know, if you didn't write it down and prioritize it, what's going to happen? You're going to fall back on your old habits, and you're going to dig into your pocket, and you're going to take out the cash, and you're going to buy wood, which is like a crime, because you are living where you have renewable resources at your fingertips. And what you should have been doing is planning, which means going and scouting for wood, which means harvesting wood. You know, even if you know, Mr. Hilder used to get up 1 hour before we got working on the house. He'd put in, you know, 12, 13, 14 hours from sunup to sundown. But that 1 hour every day was spent cutting wood on our homestead, because we knew, you know, winter was coming and we would need wood. So, you know, but we knew that. We knew that from our background. So we were preparing. So if you've never burned wood before and you're new, then you better write it down, because winter's coming. You know, it's the same thing. You better write down about water and your water source. You know, if you are living off grid and you have a new homestead, what happens if your gravity-fed water line freezes? Yeah, it can happen. So did you write it down on what you're going to do? Do you have a backup plan? Or, you know, so those are all things that if you are new and you write down, you will avoid a lot of the mistakes that you think will be made up by your old mode of thinking. But once you're off grid, that old mode of thinking either costs you money, which you probably don't have, or you don't want to spend because, you know, you want to be self-sustainable and you want to keep that lifestyle, or it takes a lot more energy and time, which is just a waste then. That's the pit. All right, and one last piece of advice when we are talking about writing things down and prioritizing, because starting a homestead from scratch is so difficult. I mean, me and Mr. Hilder, we had an arsenal of things. We had food, we had tools, you know, we had been living this lifestyle, okay? So we just kind of brought everything with us from Wisconsin. So we really didn't have to like start from scratch like a lot of newbies are. So if you are a newbie and you are venturing into the brave new world of self-sustainability and starting this homestead from scratch, you better focus on the basics. And the basics will be, we know, water, food, heat, and getting that house done. Number one, all that list right there should be your only list. And you know, you have to stick with that list because you know, many of you are going to be limited for funds. You know, going off grid financially can be a strain. So you're going to be thinking outside the box with finding other resources to help supplement your endeavor. You're going to be focusing on buying things in bulk so you save money. You're going to be focusing at going to the resource dump. We call it the resource center, but the dump to get materials. You're going to be going to neighbors and scouting for things that you can get for free. You know, that's part of building up a homestead. But you're not going to be wasting your time entertaining your husband's idea of, we really need a barbecue pit. We really need a barbecue pit. No, you're not going to be doing a barbecue pit. You can't entertain your wife's idea of, I really need a sauna. Oh, yeah, I need a sauna. No, not when you're going off the grid and starting a homestead. All of those things like, oh, well, we think we should build a gazebo because, you know, it's so pretty and we're here in the mountains. Trust me, friends, every dime that you spend is going to be an important dime, and everything, every effort that you make, every energy that you put forth is going to be worth a lot. So you're not going to be spending your time and your energy on building stuff like a barbecue pit. Get it out of your mind. That is old on-grid thinking, that you have to have those things. Those will come later on. But if you're not focused on the basics, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. You're going to be a slow learner if you're not getting it, because living off the grid and being self-sustainable is a serious, serious job. And starting that homestead, you better stay focused and have that priority list, because it's just going to make it so much harder for you if you don't. Because especially starting a homestead from scratch, okay, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So just my advice, save your energy for the home. Save your money for the for the windows. Save your money for the doors, for the insulation. Save your efforts to create a chimney in the house. There's a lot more important things to focus on, because you really are going back to the basics. And if you want to be successful in this lifestyle, you gotta get off the grid with your thinking. And it may take some time, and it may take you writing things down and really sticking to that so you don't fall back on your old instincts, but it can be done. And the great thing about sticking to that list and prioritizing is less chance for mistakes, less chance for spending money that you don't have. Well, welcome, friends and subscribers, to Starry's Homestead. We got a beautiful view this morning. There's the house, and look at all the snow. It is melting. We just go from one extreme to the other. We got tons of snow, but it is wet today. Are you eating the snow? What are you doing? Oh, they're both now. Look at that. Two peas in a pod. They act like they haven't been fed. For the deer were just out here, and we have the alfalfa and little homestead dogs. Look at, oh, he thinks he's missing something. What are you guys doing, huh? Stretch her out. They were out snowshoeing this morning, and now we are just going to do a short video. Hi, friends. Here in the homestead, because I get a lot of great comments, a lot of good feedback from all of you friends at home. And one of the things that I really think may need to be addressed is for those of you who are just beginning this journey and thinking about going off-grid or starting a homestead like we did here in the mountains of Idaho. Things that is overlooked with new homesteaders and new off-gridders is the thinking aspect of going off the grid and starting a homestead. And what I mean by that is many people are looking now at escaping the urban jungle